What's good, friendly ghost friendlies and non-friendlies? How's everybody doing? So we had a little bit of a surprise demo drop of Stellar Blade, but more so of a shadow drop, but it's actually turned out to have been one big mistake because they took it down. But I happen to have gotten the full allotted time with the demo and got a little over 2 hours, 2 hours and 30 minutes worth of playing time to fill out. And I'm gonna share my impressions with y'all. Now I will say this. When I first started, I'm gonna try to avoid spoilers. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna try to avoid story spoilers. So when I first booted up the demo and got my first bit of playing in there, I will say that the controls felt a little heavier than I thought they would. Eve is quite a weighty character to control. Not not momentum like. She doesn't have momentum, but she does have a lot of weight to her. Another thing that when the first mission that they put you on, it's like a one big set piece in the demo. And I wasn't really gelling with it personally. Not talking about the story, not talking about anything else. I'm just talking about how the game flowed. So they put you in a big set piece where you're like, running and stuff and fighting at the same time, and they're throwing a tutorial at you, all at once. This game being a bit more methodical, especially when they just start you out here in this section. You don't have access to sprint, none of your abilities, and Eve, it just feels even more weighted because of that. So where it was an odd feeling where Eve feels slower. She feels slower than I'm expecting, feels a little bit weighty. She also can't sprint. And also they want me to be a set piece and like run and on a time limit or some sort. And then they're also trying to give me a tutorial, and then also they're surrounding me with mobs. But what I wasn't really feeling and I couldn't get adjusted to was that there's no quick turn of the camera, and that to me it took a minute to get used to, right? There's no snapping the camera to follow behind your character or where your character is facing. So there's point in times where I'm getting surrounded by mobs where enemies coming from off screen or a blind spot, and I'm like, how can I quickly adjust and face them, because I can't lock onto them until I put them in view. So that was a bit of an issue for me at the start, and I would say that that's my biggest complaint of the entire demo, is that there's no snap of the camera behind your character or to face where you're looking. I think that would just be nice to have. Maybe I didn't press one of the buttons. That could be the case, that I didn't press one of the buttons because I couldn't find the weapon wheel either. So maybe it was a button that I just didn't find. But yeah, as it stands, I say that would be my biggest complaint about the demo, is there's no snap camera towards where you're facing. The first mission just felt a little off to me because of, all these things adding up. The methodical gameplay, Eve feels kind of slow. Multiple enemies surrounding you, you're also racing at the same time, and they're giving you a tutorial at the same time. And it just didn't feel like it matched up well to me personally. So halfway through that mission, you unlock the ability to finally sprint and run faster, and that's when the game starts picking up the pace, right? Because you need her to move faster. That section aside, that section comes to an end. You have a couple more fights. You're dealing with like a partner, and it kind of just feel like the partner is just holding you back the whole time. But where the game shines is when they put you out there on your own. This is when the game starts to shine and where the fun started to kick in for me. I'm like, okay, just take the cuffs off. Let me just run wild. Let me just get filthy real quick. Let me mess around. And thankfully, that's what they did. I was so afraid that was going to be the end of the demo, and I was going to be like, I don't know. So yeah, I'll say that would be like my second con, I guess, would be that first mission. From a story perspective, without spoiling, I kind of dig it. I think the English voices are just a little misdirected. You know, especially like Taki's character. Spoilers, her name is Taki. My favorite character, fighting game character. Yeah, I just feel like the English voices are just maybe a little bit misdirected. But maybe that's intentional. But you know, it definitely stood out. The voices aren't bad per se. It just feels like it's some sort of misdirection, in my opinion. But anyways, the second part of the demo, you're out there on your own. You're going your action adventure, combat, you know, shenanigans.
So this must be ITOwl 7.
Woo! You get to play a little more.
The terrain data's changed recently.
Alright. So maybe we'll get a better feel of the control now. Basic attack. We hold heavy attack, we get that. My analog has stick drift, so I have to deal with some stuff. I'll say this. Moving the camera and your control, controlling your character at the same time, takes some getting used to. That's trouble. Yeah, it's like sometimes like I feel like there should be a center the camera behind you option, you know? And I don't think there is. You know, I would like for it to be like a center the camera behind your character option. I feel like that's like the most egregious thing so far. I think I want auto loot on. Performing a perfect parry. Perfect parry. You can knock enemies off balance by performing a perfect parry. Enemies that are completely off balance groggy. Ooh! Okay, that was sick. That was sick. That was sick. I think that was the first actual sick thing that's happened yet. Okay. I gotta be honest. I was kinda skeptic. I was kinda skeptic. You notice how quiet I was being. I was kinda skeptic. But the perfect parry, that one message about the perfect parry right there, that right there has revitalized my hope. And plus, I think this is just the opening stage. You know? That perfect parry saved this game's life. Put in my eyes. You're on rails for the most part of this, right? You're on rails. They heavily put you on rails. You know, there's no wide open space to explore as of yet. And I don't think there is in the entirety of the demo. There's like some side rooms you can go into, but there's like no wide open area. You know, it's like straight ways, straight ahead, straight away. And there's some verticality, like there's climbing buildings and stuff like that. Yeah, when they introduce like, hey, why don't you try out parrying? Why don't you try out the perfect parry? You know, so there's apparently a parry and then there's a perfect parry. I'm not too sure of the specifics for what they do, because I wasn't, you know, really aware that there were two different kinds of parries. But apparently perfect parry is just better, you know, gets you like a bigger spark, you know, it gives you like bigger effects, and it takes away like a pip of their like posture meter that they call balance in this game. Yeah, and when they introduced that, that's when the game really started to turn around, and I was like, okay, I can dig this, I can get behind this. From there, it was just like an uphill ascent. From the moment you get the sprint, you know, the parries and the perfect dodge and all that stuff, the game starts to speed up a bit. You gotta respect your enemy, you gotta respect the opponent and all that. But you could kind of turn the pace of the fights, you know, in your own direction. That's the feeling I came away with. You could turn them in your own direction, because here's how the skills work. We're gonna skip into like the boss fights real quick. Let me just say this first. The fights are hard. They're challenging, right? It's challenging enough. Yeah, the boss got me like a couple times. When you're in the boss fights felt like a main event. You know, throughout the whole demo, the music is all like chill and there's like some soft singing and it's like it's like angelic voices and all that type of stuff. You hit the pit stop, the camps. Then there's like a radio station and the music gets all like chill. And I swear there's like some DOA volleyball soundtrack that they use, and it sounds like you're in the Bahamas on a vacation. But when you get to the boss fights, it's like a completely different soundtrack kicks in. Yeah, two different teams worked on the music, one for boss fights and one for the areas and the camps. The boss fights kick in and it just gets like ramped up and everything just starts just going crazy, And yeah, they just felt like main events, and I just will say that they were really cool. And you get to use a lot more tools in Eve's pocket. The normal mobs, you can pretty much your basic run-of-the-mill, methodical gameplay. It's not Souls like. It's more of a Sekiro defensively, and maybe some of the movement is a little Sekiro like, but it's not one-to-one. There's some Souls ideas for like enemies waiting, to ambush you behind areas that you can't see. Yeah, there's some Souls like design in there and some Sekiro like defensive philosophy in there, including like you have to dash into the enemy to like avoid like grabs and unblockable moves that you can't guard and parry. You have to dodge and perfect dodge them. Yeah, and there's just a lot to mix in there that keeps you on your toes. System wise mechanics that are put in place to keep you on your toes. So even like the basic enemy, you still have to pay attention, and when you attack too much, enemies just armor through you, so you have to watch out for that. Take your turn, get in, get out. So yeah, you can't just like go all in on offense, at least not at first glance. And there's a lot of people who thought it was a character action game, like a fast-paced, going all in on offense, combo city type of thing. It's more methodical than not, but on offense, you can have setups in this game. And for that people who want character action game, I'll tell you this: even though it may look slow and methodical, it may look Souls-like, and that may not be your fancy, I'm gonna tell you this real quick, or real long. Combos and fancy combos, air juggles, it's not in this game. But there are combos in this game. There's a heavy attack, light attack. I should have mentioned that earlier, but heavy attack, light attack, you can mix them up pretty well. There may be unlockables, I wouldn't know. There's air attacks, and there's a dive kick of sorts, and there's a double jump, and there may be some moves that are tied to that as well. The reason why you can't combo crazy in this game is because enemies will just armor through you after a while. Kind of know what that is, right? After a while, they just say, okay, fuck your turn, it's my turn, deal with this. So as they're doing that, if you keep going in on offense, you're going to just get countered. There is a way to avoid that. And so while there aren't combos and long combo city type of situations, there is potential for loop situations and setups. And to go into detail about that, I have to tell you about the skills. They're called beta skills. So these are like these blue pips that build up on your lower left side of the screen. They're like 4 squares. But how they work is whenever you build up one of the 4 squares, you have access to your skill, which is you hold L1 and press one of the face buttons. They act as resources. So once you use them, they're consumed. And you build the skill back up by parrying and attacking and the likes. You can't like stock up multiple at the same time. You have to stock up one individually at a time. Just a quick correction here on the meter stuff. Like, it actually, you can stock multiple at the same time. If you look at the bottom right, there's like a little bitty ass number right there. That's the cost of the move, right? So you can stock multiple at the same time. It's just, come on, man. You only need some bifocals to see that shit, man. So good. Now these skills are basically special attacks, but they act like guard councils and combo breakers, and you can use them to steal a turn when the enemy's throwing out strings, and they stagger the enemy pretty much all the time unless the enemy's doing their own skill. And so that's the mini game, or the opportunity for getting greedy, I guess you can say. So you use that to like sneak in a turn, steal a turn, or maybe you don't want to deal with an enemy's doing something you don't know how to guard against. So you're like, okay, let me stop you from doing this. I'll throw out, she has like a flash kick, throw out a flash kick, you know, and then it will stagger the enemy, and then they'll reset the balance, right? Back to neutral. That's something that's in this game. But how you can use that to like go into loops as far as potential is some of them can knock down, especially if you charge them. And so theoretically, do like a combo, you know, then the enemy tries to armor through something that you're doing, and then you throw out a skill, knock them down, right? Then you get them on the wake ups, right? Maybe you have enough time to build up another bar, maybe you don't. So you throw out like a bomb or something like that. It's an immediate knockdown. Hit them more on wake ups, you build another bar, right? So you've just essentially looped them right there. So now you have a multiple string combo going on, and that's something that's possible. You know, situations like that. Now you have enough to do another skill, get your combo, get your damage in, bop, 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 they get up, okay, throw the skill, knock them down again, bop, 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 bop. You know, that's what is possible in this game. You know, things like that, loop combos, or just looping the enemies. How well you can do that, don't know. I didn't get enough time, but that's something that is worth, you know, digging into, you know, for people who want that creativity. That is the creativity with this game, is the fact that these skills act as guard cancels, they act as combo breakers, they also act as big damage and knockdowns. And you know, that can create like a turn of the tide for you, you know. So that's something cool that maybe people haven't been talking about. So the big long combos, fancy DMC style combos may not be in here, but you have to work for it. And I always like that type of philosophy for games, where you have to work to achieve it. It may not be front loaded, but you can still achieve it in a way. You have to work to achieve it. And I feel the same way with Eve's movement in the game. Is she may not be the ninja out here. She has some weight to her. She's definitely got some weight to her. She ain't no ninja, but there's mobility options, and you can work to achieve quicker movement. You know, I'm not saying that she's slow either, but I'm just saying you can still improve on the mobility of Eve. That's why I'm, you know, looking on this, my outlook of this game is more positive. Is I see the room for creativity. I see that room for player identity. I see the room for player fingerprints in here, that you can clearly improve on many different things that on the outside looking in, you may be like, oh, this game is slow, this and da. I full-heartedly believe that it's not even a question, that people are going to get pretty tech savvy with this game. One case in point, there's a training mode in this game, you know, and that's immediately a sign of like, there's a practice mode in here for a reason. There's something worth in here, you know. And the practice mode is solid. You weren't able to choose the enemies you practice against, I don't think, maybe, but you can choose if you want them to attack, what type of attack you want them to throw out. If you don't want, you want to just like be a dummy. Yeah, and you're basically just put out in a wide open grid, kind of like Oni, Ghost in the Shell like, and it's just cool. You know, it's cool, laid back, and you just practice and practice your timing, practice your setups and stuff like that. You know, it was cool. I don't know how many enemies they're going to include in training mode, but there is a training mode. That's like the most that I took away from this game. As well as there being potential, I feel, to like do things like dash. So I forgot to mention, you could dash and you can air dash. I feel like there's like a potential for like dash canceling, and you know, to get quicker movement, and I feel like there's potential for that. Her dash is kind of stubby, but I feel like there's potential for some tech savvy stuff in here that you just didn't get enough time to lab up. I feel that way about most of the combat, and that's why I'm very positive about it. Parry windows is about exactly what I thought it would be. Like in the last video I made, like 5 to 8 frames, 5 to 8-ish frames. It's fairly lenient. Okay, it's actually easier than that because parry is just by guarding. You just time the guard button. And in this game, you have a lot of room to like make an error with the parry and then like correct it by tapping it again. So there's not a huge consequence. There's no like whiff a parry in here. At worst, you whiff a parry, you just end up guarding. There's room to like correct parries quite a bit. Perfect dodging, on the other hand, you have to dash, and dashing, I haven't found a way to cancel the dash into anything else, but I have faith that there might be something there. I just haven't figured it out. But the perfect dodge is a lot more of a commitment because of that. If you whiff it, it's a big whiff, and you're just eating. And yeah, bosses seem to like forcing you into scenarios where you have to do that just perfect dodge, and that's how they kind of got me a lot of the times. Yeah, it was real fun, so it may look slow as a viewer, but when you're dealing with, I'll bring up Street Fighter 6 as an example again. Street Fighter 6 looks slow. Everybody thought Street Fighter 6 was slow, but when you're playing Street Fighter 6, you're not really thinking it's slow. You're so busy thinking about, okay, drive impact, okay, throw loops, okay, my drive meter, okay, perfect parry, okay, You're so worried about, crouch forward, you're so worried about all these things, command grab. Your mind is so loaded with all of these things that you have to watch out for. In a sense, maybe it is slow if you can bypass all of that, and as a viewer, you're not really in that scenario. But when you're playing, you're dealing with all of that weight and thought process and trying to predict and trying to foresee and trying to you're mentally handling these things, and you're waiting for the opportunity to react and respond. And so I feel like it was just engaging the whole time. I didn't feel like it was slow when I was playing. I felt like it was pretty fast paced. It felt like it was fast to me. Maybe because I appreciate defense, and so there's times where you take your turn, okay, then you deal with their bullshit. They take their turn, and then you take your turn, and then you're dealing with that. When do I sneak in and try to steal a turn back? When should I go for the parry? When should I go for the dodge? When should I go for this? And also there's like a dash attack that is on a cooldown that you have, where you immediately dash quite a distance, right? It's on a cooldown. Whenever you use it, you just hold the heavy attack button. There's also like an instant dash after a perfect dodge, where if you get after a perfect dodge, you do like certain buttons or hold a button, then you get an immediate punish afterwards, right? There's things like that in here. And then there's scenarios where you just have the perfect dodge multiple times in a row, so there's just a lot of just thinking that you have to do and just kind of creative flowing. It's not as strictler, or it's more free flowing than a Souls game. It's not as combo heavy or fast paced as like a games people may want it to be. It's not like that. It's kind of doing its own thing. I'll just say it's like a PS2 action game. It's a PS2 action game with Souls-like, Sekiro-like inspiration and design philosophies, but also it's a PS2 action game. There's double jump attacks, jump combos, and dive kicks, and let's not even mentioning the fact that you can somewhat customize the character. There are like gears and stuff that you can apply to Eve in multiple slots, and like if you want to boost your speed by blah 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 blah, your attack power, there's a bunch of different stuff, make parrying easy for you. Then there's a skill tree, and there's stuff to mess around with here. How extensive they go, have to wait and see. And I came away from this really positive. When I first started it, I thought I was going to be disappointed. I was not feeling the first mission. The camera had me all up and tangled. I thought I was just like, I thought it was just going to be a tragic day. After that first mission, he put you out there in the wilderness and you just start going on your own. It all just started coming together and I was like, man, they should have started with this. They should have started with training mode. They should have started, you know, and yeah, it was a love song from that point on. So yeah, that's my demo impressions so far. There is a scare. There's some things that I think can be cleaned up. The camera is the main thing that I had the biggest gripe with. The voice, I don't really care about that because you have options, but I think that one of the jarring things is like the actual cutscenes, not the gameplay, but the cutscenes kind of look a little uncanny. I don't know what it is. It just looks a little uncanny to me. Like when I look at it, I'm not like thinking this is like greatly animated. I'm just not thinking, okay, this is like a greatly animated. But when the game is going, I'm like, oh, this looks nice. But when the cutscenes happen, I'm like, okay, you know. So it's not bad. It's just something that kind of sticks out. Yeah, and yeah, that's pretty much it. There's environmental puzzles. There's swimming. Yeah, there seems to be like some sort of, it's like a mix of multiple genres because there's like password puzzles and you know, granted they weren't complicated. They basically gave you the answer, but there's like padlocks and you have to find the password and how can you climb this ladder, you know, things like that. Your typical action adventure action game type of stuff is all in here. And yeah, I had fun. Long story, even longer, I had fun. I say the demo as is was like an 80 to 82. With everything involved, maybe it gets more than that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Now, I'd say that demo was like 80 to 84. 80 to 84 for me. The boss fights were really fun. Really the big highlights. Really feel like a main event match. Really cool. The boss fight songs. The first one was cool. The second one was kind of like whatever. Wasn't really feeling the second song. Kind of wasn't fitting, but maybe it was just because it was in a special additional mode that they, you know, didn't technically announce yet. But you know, there's extra bonus modes in this game potentially. So yeah, I'll end it on that and maybe highlight some examples and toss y'all to like my demo shenanigans in like a, you know, gameplay only shindig. So thank you for joining. Peace be with, much love and all that, and stay cool. Like, let me show you this example right here. Enemies doing like a lot of stuff and time it and try to parry it. I was like, you know what? Instead of waiting for that, I'm just waiting for the gap and then I'm gonna steal this turn. And so I did a quick flash kick. I didn't charge it, I just did it quickly. I still took the hit, but I got a knockdown as well. So there's things, little things like that, that are, you have to look out for it, and it kind of opens the game up in my opinion, and I think that's pretty cool. So here's another example of the loops I was talking about earlier. This is just the concept. You just keep getting knockdowns, building meter, and saving it for these type of loop setup scenarios. And theoretically, you could keep this going, right? Maybe it's not feasible, but maybe it is. And I think that this game is going to be filled with a lot of these type of things, depending on how varied the builds can be. I think it's going to be very interesting in seeing how savvy, you know, the meta ends up turning out to be in this game. But I say it's very much, it's not a disaster, right? And it's actually fun. So I think that's a win. So I'm gonna toss y'all to these, like the rest of this demo footage, a few more examples, and then it's gonna be like a demo play out of the experience of just the game, no commentary. And I'll bid y'all further ado. I hope you enjoyed this little breakdown, and I hope you have a blessed and wonderful rest of your days. May peace be with all. Keep your heads up, deuces, those post ideals, stay cool. If you like this content, be sure to show some love, but always be sure to show that love to the people who matter to you. It's ITOwl bidding you farewell, peace, much love, and stay cool.
There's another supply box over here.
Did someone forget to retrieve this?
I'm sure there are more supply boxes. It'll help us survive. So, look carefully. You have to cross here. Do you see the ladder behind me?
I can't reach the ladder. The water level is too low.
Try using the plank. The crack is quite deep.
A supply camp? In a place like this?
Supply?
Adam, get back!